Food for thought, assuming I string this together in a way that is intelligible enough to where you understand what I'm getting at. Assuming you listen to this. Would you agree that people babble about cymatics and how sound creates what people call sacred geometry? Would you agree? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, you could look up that jazz. Hopefully you do agree. Hopefully you do. Because vibrations maintain that jazz. The different structures, you can think of the platonic solids and all that other jazz. It has to do with the frequency, by and large, if you just simplify things. And I've spoken about that at length. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you could look up the many videos I've left online. So back to point. So if speaking these things creates and shapes reality, where does that come from? You and I cook up ideas in our heads, and then we vocalize them. You know, as within, so without. It's a process. And the reason I'm mentioning this is there was an interaction I had with somebody who wanted other people to think for them. And, I mean, they came at me guns hot. They had a lot to say based on, you know, their ego and all that other crap. And then down the line, they started asking me, you know, to essentially think for them and be kind enough to answer questions that they had. But by that point, I was like, why would I do that for you? Back to point. I'll come back to this and I'll probably play this in a second. But here, watch this. And it's silly shit, but it's how things work. Where is it at? One says lesser magic on the upper left. Because it has to do with Disney programming, a decent amount of people saw it. And you see the gal, the female Loki, because everything has to be gender bent, as if we need another Loki, but one that wears a dress, but doesn't literally wear a dress. Either way, she flashes some signs in there, some hand signals, and they're representative of something important. And it's not necessarily a good thing. So the kid in here, let's see if I can mute this. 1 second, did it mute? Yeah. So, I mean, at best, this is you. I thought it did. So the kid right there, Danny Boy, he rattled off a bunch of shit. First and foremost, he said, whatever the fuck that means, and I'm messing with you kids because words have power and you should spell your words. That's why there's a war on words. He said, lesser magic to do what? And then, you think she cast a spell on the audience with the gesture, or with that gesture? To do what? And then there's 3 social engineering stickers in here, because that's in place to do away with abstract thought. And then he says, his assumption naturally, it's a TV show, bro. It's not that deep. Because Danny Boy isn't that deep. So back to point. All the programming is programming. That's why it's called programming. And in this case, it's lesser magic. What does that mean? I've left that online numerous times, and if you're familiar with the numerous accounts I moderate, you should be able to answer that. It's a deeper understanding to what people rattle off, what they superficially rattle off in terms of quote-unquote disclosure, which is usually dressed up in an even more superficial way in terms of social engineering jargon. They call it predictive programming, and usually you'll see an image from The Simpsons TV show associated with that. It's lesser magic. Our masters know this, but you're not supposed to know this. And it doesn't come up, and if you Google it, you probably won't find it, because you're not supposed to know this shit. It's the closest thing you're going to get to answers, and it's in all of the programming. Whether we're talking about music, books, movies, TV shows, it applies across the board. Some of the finest examples of lesser magic are in low-budget projects, I shit you not, that are, keep in mind, financed by bigger names out there. It's a story for another day. But yeah, in terms of stuff like this, that's so well known and widely publicized. Anything that's widely, shopped around and financed well. I'm tired. I need to eat some food, so I'm not stringing my words together like I'd like to. You can't trust it. But in this case, this stuff is widely circulated, which means most of the shit that you're going to see in here is on the surface for superficial people. And most people are going to overlook it because they are superficial people. Materialistic by design. They're in the lower root chakras and, the willpower, the relationships, and they're never going to reach the heart chakra. They're never going to dance within that spectrum because that's what society's shitting out. You're not supposed to understand that, and there's a lot more to that as well that I've never left online. Yeah. So superficial shit. In here, I point out, in case you're wondering, even though this is also, I put it on YouTube and I put it on the TikTok jazz. Yeah, back to point. So she flashes 2 666s, right? And crudely speaking, it's a 6 in both hands, which has to do with the father. And what I rattled off in here is it's symbolic. They're both pointed downwards. In other words, there's no balance between as above, so below. They're both downward cast. And she does this a couple different times throughout the programming. And it's because, and again, you got to think in terms of the context, this is all about God being dead. That's what this episode's about. It's about the female aspect of the system that you and I are a part of, taking over everything, and God being dead, the male version being dead. This is also the changing of the guard that New Age circles babbled about, even though they didn't understand it. If I'm not mistaken. Either way. There's a lot more to that having to do with, what's his name? I can't think of his name. And they also, if I'm not mistaken, changed this shit too. Think of the Matrix real fast. Think of the architect in the Matrix being a little white dude, and then think of the Oracle being, a friendly black gal, right? Usually that's what you see in the programming. But in terms of Disney, they're polarizing people. Both of the characters playing each one of these respective halves, they're both dark. They both have dark skin, is my point. And that's also very telling in terms of it being downward cast. I shit you not. Keep in mind, one of my oldest friends is from Oakland, and I love that guy to death. I fucking love that guy. Just in case, because people assume a lot of shit these days. Oh my God, he said they can't both have dark skin. People are fucking... if I say that, I'll probably be flagged. Back to point. Later in this episode, they babble about pi quite a few times. And that's what's actually happening right here as well. And so I pointed out a timestamp where pi is reversed. A pole shift, reversing the polarity. And then later in the episode, I rattled off something else. I'm trying to remember what else, but I can't think of it offhand. One of the other things is this is Season 2, Episode 4, because it has to do with the 24 or 42, because it has to do with 66, the father, which is the demiurge, Jupiter, Baal el Allah. It's the paternal spark. It's all that stuff. It's the sacred masculine. And this entire episode is about doing away with that. Doing away with it. The other thing I was going to rattle off, and I know I didn't play the other video, big surprise. I was going to string together a number of movie clips, but they'll probably be flagged for copyright. But I was going to show you, and I've rattled this off before, about themes in the narrative, in the programming. You can find one too many movies that have to do with God, and God has a schizophrenic personality. He's forgetful. He forgets about his family, and usually he'll scorch the earth. That's usually the role God plays, and usually he's an author or something along those lines. You could look up the movie Dream House. That's one of the examples. You could watch Mother, that baby eating garbage. That's another example. You could watch Ryan Reynolds, who plays Ryan Reynolds in every single fucking project he's in because he doesn't have to act because he's a baby eating fill in the blank. Watch The Nines. It's low budget, which means there's a lot of lesser magic in there. And it's just titled The Nines. And he plays the same fucking character. Now, if you think in terms of, Kang, that's his name. The God character in the Marvel Universe right now is Kang. And instead of having a schizophrenic personality, there are multiple iterations of Kang that will come about. Here's something else because it doesn't come up for some reason. Disney altered the story again. So you got this gal, Ravonna Renslayer or whatever. It's the Mother Earth character. And in the comics, she was a princess. Kang tried to conquer her world and all this other shit. They fell in love. That's the bastard version of it. At first, she didn't. She brushed off his advances, and I ran out of time.